you guys a few things. I understand that you have done a little work with note-taking in class.
Yes.
Okay, and it's a very important skill to have. And I think what's really cool about the fact that you just did some note-taking is that you were given an opportunity to simply practice note-taking. It wasn't attached to a big assignment. It was simply note-taking. So today, we're going to share with you a couple of other things that hopefully you can kind of put in your back pocket, and these things will be helpful to you as you continue to to experience various things in school, and in particular when you are dealt an assignment that requires you to research. So we're going to try and mix it up with some activities where I get some feedback from you, and then we're going to, I have some things that I'd like to share with you. So I wanted to just start with this idea that when you have a topic of research, and I understand that some here you guys may be doing some individualized research projects that are very much geared toward personal interests, passions that you have, things that you are interested in researching, which is awesome because one of the first steps you need to do when researching is come up with guided research questions, and those questions serve as a guide throughout all of your research. And when you're given a topic, the passion may not be as strong, but when you get to choose a topic of interest to you, it allows for I think a deeper connection. So we're going to talk a little bit about searching. I imagine we've all had experiences when we've thrown something into Google and we've gotten this like astronomical number of results. But what we want to do is we want to try and sift through those results and get to the results that are really truly going to help us with the particular aspects of our research. So I'm going to take a topic that I'm interested in. I'd love to get a golden doodle. So I'm typing in golden doodle. It's a kind of dog. And when I get my results, I get 1,310,000 results. And they come in, these results are generated in 0.45 seconds. So now I got to ask myself, what do I do with all this? And there are some strategies that require you to do a little thinking. And then there are some strategies that Google provides you, some tools that I'm going to walk you through. So we first need to talk about this idea of breaking down a topic. So the example is golden doodle, and I'm going to generate a few questions about this topic. So I'm going to ask myself, questions. What am I interested in learning about this topic? So I think of things like the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how, just to kind of get me started. So I'm thinking about what is a golden doodle first of all. What are the traits of this breed? What should I look for if I'm going to go with this kind of a dog? What should I look for with respect to breeders? How big, I got a double big in there, but how big is an adult golden doodle? So I'm thinking about size, and I'm really interested in health issues or problems that might surface with this breed. So these are just some initial questions. Now, when you research, you have to be open-minded and flexible. These questions may be your beginning, they may be the first questions that come to mind when you think about research. However, you need to be flexible because that can change. New questions may surface, and it's important to be flexible and be able to adapt to some of these new things that may come into the picture. Now, it's like a game, all right? So I'm not going to throw these questions as entire questions into my search in Google. I need to think of specific words or phrases that I can pull from these questions to guide my search from here on out. So what is a golden doodle? So I'm thinking about like the characteristics of this dog. What are the traits associated with this breed? I could chunk this and I could say, physical traits, I want to know what they look like. I also want to know, are there particular personality traits that are specific and consistent with this breed? Because those are phrases, when you guys throw in a keyword search to Google, if you leave those two together and you put a quotation marks around physical traits or around personality traits, it will keep them together, like pieces of a puzzle, and it'll search for those two words together. But if you just do personality traits, Google's going to take that as one, and it's going to tell you about the personality, and then it's going to do traits, but it may not be like personality traits. It may separate it and give you way too many results. So if you chunk things together, with the quotation, it'll keep that as a phrase, and it'll help sift through some of this information. I could type in breeding, maybe size with respect to how big is an adult golden doodle, and then I think I would probably just short and sweet say health regarding the health of the dog. So these little words in pink are going to be my keywords. And I want to show you something that is really, really helpful, and I'm not sure how many of you have had experience using. Have any of you heard of the gear shift? Okay, I'm going to come back to that in 1 second. Just a couple other things to keep in mind when searching. You want to avoid typing incomplete sentences, the carefully chosen words. If you can use synonyms, it's great. Here are the quotation marks that we just talked about, and now the gear shift. And I know that we can all ask questions. We can type in entire questions, but you're really just going to get kind of surface answers when you do that. We take out our phones and we ask for the nearest Jimmy John's, and it tells us the nearest Jimmy John's is 1.2 miles away. But that's a very surface question, and we got a very surface answer. When you're doing research, you want to dig deeper. So I want to show you how to use this gear shift for a moment. When I go into Google and I type in golden doodle, here are those results that I get. Currently I'm getting 1,260,000 results in 0.3 seconds. I know, aren't they cute? Search up Doodle. Clearly, who would not want to look at it like that? Okay, all right, so up in the top right-hand corner, do you see that gear shift? It looks a little bit like I think it kind of looks like a flower, this thing right here. But that's a gear shift, and what you can do is you can plug in an advanced search. So when I click on that and I pull it down, I can go to advanced search, and now I'm able to type in specific phrases or specific words. And this page, I know it's hard to read from where you're sitting, but it'll actually guide you in how to do this. Off to the side, it says to do in this search box. Yeah, this is really crummy. It's not very legible for you guys. It says find pages with, and then it says all of these words, and then it gives me another box, and it says this exact word or phrase, any of these words, none of these words. Have any of you ever used a minus and then a word in your search? So let's say, for example, I'm not interested in like showing this dog. Like I don't want to get into like the dog shows. That's not of interest to me. So in my search up at the top when I did golden doodle, I could actually type in golden doodle, and then I could do this like a minus sign, and I could say like, what is that called? Dog shows, maybe keep it as a phrase. So I'm not interested in that. So that's very handy, and some of you are going to, I think, have a chance to use that function in just a few minutes. 8th grade did a huge project this year on global issues, and they used this search, this gear shift quite a bit, because over here you can select a region, you can select when it was last updated, you can even select the kind of website it comes from. Does it come from a governmental organization? Does it come from an educational organization? And they had some requirements that directed them to use an educational website, a governmental created website. They also needed to have a website that was updated within the last year. So that was very handy. So you'll want to keep that in mind when you head to 8th grade for next year. All right, so after I do all of this, I hit advanced search, and it brings my results down to 41,000. Now again, I'm not going to go through 41,000, but 41,000 is a lot more manageable than my initial 1,300,000, whatever it was. So the gear shift is pretty helpful. Now, I'd like to give you guys an opportunity to practice using this gear shift. So I'm going to hand out, you should have iPads at your table. I'm going to hand a scenario, like a kind of a little problem that using the skills that we just talked about, I want you just your dog. Anybody can post to the internet. So you need to be really, really smart about which sites you use when conducting research. So the main questions that we need to keep in mind are, how do you know if a site's reliable? You can ask yourself a variety of different questions. And before I share some tips with you, I'm curious about what you know. I know this is not the first time you've heard about website evaluation. I'm curious what you know about it, why is it important, what items what factors you keep in mind when determining if something is credible. So, with the folks at your table and those Post-it notes, we're going to do a Post-it parking lot for another day. All right. We also, I see a lot of things regarding the domain name. I see things like here it said good, middle, bad, and it was organized edu.gov.org.us.com was in the middle. Those were all good suggestions, and then .net was bad. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what those domain names, what they mean, and what you can keep in mind when you see those. There was I saw something, this one says author and date published is important. Okay, so we're going to come back to that, but I'm really excited that somebody knew about that ahead of time. This suggestion was to be clear when you're doing a search, making sure that you've used correct grammar and your spelling and punctuation is correct. I would also piggyback on that idea and say that if you come across sites that have a lot of mistakes or errors, chances are that might not be super reliable. What else do we have? Don't click on mysterious. This is straight out of one of your parents' mouths, I think. Do not click on mysterious links or ads. You know, the ads that come popping up and taking over your whole screen, and you have to click on it in the next 30 seconds or you're going to lose the big prize you're supposed to win. Those are usually things you want to stay away from. Let's see. .com usually means that there are a lot of ads and that they will be trying to sell something. I think you guys have a great base from which to build. So I want to share just a few things regarding website evaluation that I'd like you to keep in mind, and hopefully with things you already know and some of this new stuff, it'll help guide you as you continue to do research. So again, is it trustworthy, is it credible, is it reliable? Those are our three main things that we're trying to figure out. So we talked about domain names. If it's a .com, typically there's a motivation of making some sort of money. .org, those are websites created by nonprofit organizations. .edu are educational organizations, and .gov are your governmental organizations. Like I said, that project that the 8th graders were working on, they were required to have at least one .edu or one .gov. And in that search that you guys do with the gear, it allows you to actually specify and only give .edu results. It helps tremendously when you're required to use one of those websites. Okay, so very simply said, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. Very helpful when you take a minute and you pause and you ask yourself these questions with respect to, is a site reliable? We live in a very fast-paced world. If I have a list of things to do, I want to get it done. And I know that that's how you guys, many of you, approach projects as well. You want to just get it done. But when you take time to really stop and ask yourself these questions, in the long run, you're going to be saving yourself time. Because if you start to use a site, or if you use a site that's not credible, it's going to lead to dead ends, and it may be a more frustrating process for you to find the information you're after. So the who refers to the author. Who's the author of the website? And then, are you able to determine, do they provide any additional information? Does the author belong to an organization? What sort of credentials does the author have? Have they written other things, and do they provide links to those other resources? Ultimately, what you're trying to decipher is the author an expert on the topic? Okay, it's important to know that someone is well-versed or educated in the topic that you're studying, or that they're writing about, for sure. All right, what refers to the purpose? So what motivation did the person who created the website have? Are they trying to persuade you? Are they, or do they have a motivation to make some sort of money? And does this purpose of the website, does it lend itself nicely to the research that you're doing? What makes the site easy to use? I think we've probably all encountered sites that are frustrating because things don't work, or links are broken, or it's just not laid out very well. So again, things to keep in mind. And then as you use multiple resources, and it's important to use more than one resource, if you come across a website or a source that has information that's glaringly different than others, that should be a red flag. It's not to say that they may have some piece of information the others, left out, but if the general gist is contrary to what you've discovered elsewhere, chances are that's a red flag, and we should go back and figure out which of these sites is more credible than the others. All right, somebody mentioned this on the post-its. When was it created? the 8th grade project I keep mentioning, they needed to pick a current event, like a global issue. It was particularly important that they had the most current information on that issue. So we talked about when it was created and when the site was updated, right? So that's important. And then where can you go to find more information to dig deeper? We're not asking surface questions and getting surface answers, and oftentimes websites provide additional links that will take you and expand your search and your inquiry further. So keep in mind the where and do the links work? Where can you find the links and do they work? I also discovered that there's actually a website we can put in a URL for a broken link, and it will take you back to when that link wasn't broken, and you can see what you would have viewed had it not been broken on the particular version that you were looking at. So I thought that was pretty interesting too.
That's why they say nothing's ever deleted.
Yes,
You can
they
always
can
go back and
the
find it.
history is there with certain tools. Yep. All right. What time is this period?
Oh, one.
01? Okay. All right. So we also want to talk about the why and why is this information useful? Again, just because it looks good or it seems on topic, if you start to dig deeper and you realize that it's actually a part of your overall topic that's not super helpful, then move on. It's important to stop and ask these questions. And then why is this page better than another? All right. We are going to have a little I'm going to introduce this, and when you come back, we're going to try our hand at evaluating a variety of different websites. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is, using your iPad, can you log into Thomas's webpage, please?
Just Thomas's.
You don't need to log in. I just would like you to go to where it says Thomas, and then I want you to scroll down to where it says LMC, and then click on that. So this is the headline page for the LMC.
Wait, where is it?
First go to Thomas, and then scroll down to
You don't have
LMC.
to
It's
log
written
in,
in green letters. And then when you get to the LMC headline page, it'll look like this. Since we have a couple minutes, while some of you are pulling